Oh, let's see here. All right. Should start here any second. Let's see here. All right. Let's see what we got going on here. Gonna try this again. I keep trying different software for these live streams, and I guess I'd go back to StreamYard, see how it works. But can you hear me okay there, Crash? How about you, Pac Brian? Can you hear me okay? I guess the video is looking okay. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. It's a little after. So, like I said, trying a little different setup here. So, hopefully, it's working. Got me. Cool. All right. Well, I'm not going to drag this out too long, but again, trying a different setup. I'm back on the action cam as my live stream cam. But the weird thing about that is I don't have the deal to set that up to run it off the power bank. It's run off the computer, and I think it's going to start counting down here. It's at 100% right now. It's charged, but I'm just going to run till it dies and see what happens. The computer laptop should run that without dying, but I'm not an IT guy, so anyway. But yeah, cool. So just had a couple of things get kind of caught up on. If you saw the last two videos on cleaning these carburetors, these have been out of that solution, the super clean solution, for about 2 weeks, and I don't know how well you can see that, but it's not an illegal drug. It's that super clean did a number on this thing. It's pretty cool. I think what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put it back in the super clean. I had a couple folks comment that, why don't you just leave it in there and see what happens to it? And while it's pretty bad now, and it's dead. I mean, it's I should have thrown it in the trash. I think I'm going to put it back in the super clean for 30 days and really look at it of, oops, I totally forgot this thing, but it's awful. I just don't know what else to call it. That's just that it's just crusty. It'd be cool to see if it starts eating away at it and really breaking down. But right now, this was after 6 days total time, so it's pretty gnarly. So yeah, but I just thought I'd show it to you to see what that looks like after it's completely dry, but it's kind of funny now. But I was a little shocked by it the first time around when I saw it, but how awful it was. So, but anyway, live stream. So just like anything else you guys want to talk about, if you have any carburetor questions you want to talk about, if you want to talk about any of the past videos I've done, any questions on your application on something you're working on, happy to answer all those today. I've got carburetors out, so if we need to take a look at anything, so if you got any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. And yeah, God, dog. So Yeah, this was such a surprising deal with that super clean. I knew it was going to be bad. I just didn't think it was going to take, just a couple of days. But, as was pointed out a number of times by folks, it says right on there, don't use it on aluminum. And, well, this is the reason why. But a lot of folks swear by this. And a lot of folks still defending the pine saw. Oh, there's the end, the nub of the transfer tube. I don't know if you can see that or if it's what's left of the transfer tube. The rest of it's completely deteriorated away. Looks like there's another little end in here. But yeah, a lot of folks are defending the pine saw, that it's a great cleaner. It does awesome. They're like, well, it might. Yeah, here's the other end of it. Well, that tube's gone. If you saw in the video, that was literally after 24 hours. It was gone. So absolutely crazy. Let's see. What's up, Glenn? What's up, Steven? So yeah, but gnarly. I don't know what I would do if this was something I cared about and I came out and remember, this was a test. This was a control. So this had this was the shiny carburetor. It was one of my newer carburetors. Let's see if we can. So I mean, it had a nice, beautiful, shiny, finish of that. This is an 80457. All of them were 80457 carburetors, but it's insane. But yeah, I mean, it completely ate that away. Well, look how it just turns white again after that dries. I'm sure there's a reason for that chemically, but that's just crazy how it just glossed over white there after that carb cleaner dried. So absolute junk. Absolutely crazy. So yeah. But anyway, get that out of the way. Hope y'all having a good Saturday. As usually for me, I'm at LS Fest this weekend, but this has been a bit of a crazy year for me. I haven't really traveled at all. I haven't done any car shows. I haven't done any events other than stuff here local in the Memphis area. Didn't go to Louisville this year, which that's a really good one for that NSRA deal up in Louisville for the NSRA Street Rod Nationals. I didn't do Columbus. Columbus is always a really good time as well too. That's a great, big, huge Good Guys event. So absolutely love that one. But yeah, so SEMA and PRI it looks like are really the only two things I'm going to do this year. You couldn't drag me away from either one of those. I would never miss those. And bonus points if you know which one of those two shows are my favorite. I know I made mention of it quite a few times, but obviously SEMA's the big one. October 31st through November 3rd, I think this year, that week. And I will be out there early. I'm going to go Friday before. So October 31st is a Tuesday. And then November 3rd is Friday because it's a Thursday through Friday show. But I will be out there the Saturday before, 27th, I guess it is. I don't know. I'd have to look at the calendar. But I'll be out there the 27th. So if you're at the NHRA race in Las Vegas during that week of SEMA, let me know. I will be wandering around, hanging out with some friends and having a good time, and probably be in Clay Milliken's pit for a little while since he's a local guy, good friend, and certainly support him. So, but yeah, I'll be out there for Saturday, Sunday. Not sure how long on Sunday, but usually try to get out of there a little early before the finals hit. But if Clay's in the finals, I will hang out as long as he's in it. So, but but yeah, it was that's certainly a favorite event of mine. I enjoy SEMA, and I certainly enjoy hanging out with Clay when I can. He's got another race here that I may drive up to because it's only like 4 hours away in St. Louis. I may drive up there for that one. I'm not exactly sure, but that would just be like drive up really early on a Saturday morning and hang out for the day and drive home that night type of deal. Yeah, but but yeah, SEMA. So I'll be NHRA race, and then I'll be at SEMA. So I know that's a very difficult show to get into, but SEMA changed the rules last year. Was it last year or is it this year? This first year, I can't remember. Friday, I guess it's this year is the first year of it. Friday is open to the general public, so anyone can get into the SEMA show on Friday. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat with that. The show is really Friday's always been for the trade show for the people that are in the industry. Friday's always been the getaway day. A lot of folks leave early on Friday. They will still leave their booth staffed if they're there, but the traffic is way down. The manufacturers are lightly staffed. All the executive staff from those companies is long gone. It's a getaway day. Usually folks will end up there early at the show on Friday on of SEMA, and then they're out the door, and then gone. They go run back home wherever it is. But Friday this year should be a bit of a change because, like I said, now with them opening that up to the general public. Um, Anybody can show up. Anybody can go into this show and see exactly what you see on camera. Now, I will film a couple of days there like I normally do. I usually wander through there on setup day just so you can see a behind the scenes look of what the show looks like before you see it on all the TV shows and live streams and all the little clips that come out from people. I usually do that on Sunday or Monday. Just depends. If I'm not at the races, I will do that on Sunday, or I will do that on Sunday morning and then head out to the NHRA race there in Vegas. But Friday being open to the public, and then Friday night they do the oh, what's it called? I can't remember, but all of the cars that are in the show that drive out of the show after the event's over with, um, that's usually a nice little deal. And then a lot of those folks will go to another parking lot somewhere and park and have kind of like a big car show type of deal for a few hours. But it's a long deal. I mean, that show is a long, complicated week. It's tiring. It's exhausting. There's international folks that come for it. It's a big event, and by the time you get to Friday night, you're dead. Um, but yeah, it's a absolutely crazy event, crazy deal. And then they're doing something different now, where they're doing some sort of concert or whatever. But I'll have to look and see. But if you want to go to SEMA, here's your opportunity to get into the show and see everything that we get to see that are in the industry. So you can talk to every manufacturer that's there. You can hang out in the new West Hall where all the truck accessories and those types of folks are at. The Central Hall where I generally hang out because it's where all the performance manufacturers are at. And then they've got halls for like paint and body and all of those types of things. But you can see all of that. It's open 100% to you the same way it is open to us. So it's a really good deal if you're in that area or if you want to check out the show. And kudos for SEMA for being a little forward thinking and deciding to kind of open that up and let the general public in. So it's a pretty cool deal. You don't have to sneak in anymore. You don't have to try to buy somebody's tickets or badges to get in and then risk the chance of getting caught and then that person getting banned, or that company getting banned out of it. So it's kind of a cool deal. So if you're thinking about it, yeah, for sure. It's Friday's the day to go, but look at the SEMA.org website and you can see what solution did I use for how long. This was the super clean solution that we used in the last two videos I did. After 24 hours, it looked pretty close to this. And then this is after about 6 days, and it's trashed. It's gone. So like I mentioned a little while ago, we're going to put that back in the solution and let her rip and see how long and see if it destroys this thing anymore. So it's a little crazy, that's for sure. But yeah, so that's SEMA. So if you can make it out there, if you want to go out there, don't hesitate. Drop me a note. I'll be happy to link up with you somewhere during the show sometime, or afterwards for a beer or whatever. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoy SEMA. It's a long week. It's tiring. It's exhausting. It wears you out. But it's a heck of a lot of fun. It's not really a car show. Everybody thinks it's a car show, but it's not. It's a industry trade show. And I've made mention of that on the live streams that I've done from SEMA over the last 3-4 years or 5 years, I guess. It's for business to be conducted. So, shops and distributors and the folks like the executives and buyers at Summit and Jegs and, warehouse distributors, those are the folks that attend the show, along with machine shops and body shops and, accessory stores and speed shops, if there's any of those left anymore. Those are the types of attendees that attend that show. And, it's there to conduct business. They talk about new product that's come out. They talk about what they want to do for the coming year. They talk about marketing, talk about, all sorts of things. It's the business side of this industry. And, it's turned into a little bit of a joke of how people have kind of got into that show and kind of broke into it, and borrowed people's credentials, because you have to prove that you are in the automotive aftermarket in one of those capacities. You have to prove you have a business, whether it's whether you're an online retailer, whatever the case may be, that you have to go through a pretty sophisticated amount of proof before SEMA will issue credentials to allow you in the show. And it's pretty obvious if you're working that show and you're talking to somebody and, you're in a booth somewhere and somebody walks in and goes, "Hey man, I got a 68 Chevelle, what camshaft should I run for?" They know right away you're not supposed to be in there because those are not questions that people normally ask. So it's kind of an interesting deal. But now with Friday being open to everyone, that's a really good deal. That's an awesome thing for you all to see, and get in there, have fun for a day. It's impossible to walk that show in a day, so that's the hard part. But if you're a performance enthusiast, a hot rodder, muscle car, Central Hall is where you want to stay. That's where all of the activity goes. So that's where all those manufacturers are clustered together. And then, like I say, if you're a truck guy, that's in the new West Hall. And then South Hall, I think, now has tools. And then North Hall has paint and body and car audio or something like that. I don't know. I don't really hang out in any of those other ones, but I got some friends that are in some of those. But yeah, it's a good time. It's Vegas. It's Halloween. Halloween in Las Vegas is kind of a trip, especially if you get a chance to get down to Fremont Street, which any of y'all that have been to Vegas know that's kind of a crazy deal. But yeah. So, but anyway, so that's SEMA. Let's see. Rainy night in Georgia. Going carbs on the 540, old school fun. Yeah, I'm westy a little bit here in Memphis, and yeah, we haven't had rain for a week or so, but yeah, we could probably use it. But it's cooled off here. I don't know what the temperature's like in your neck of the woods, but we've been in the low 80s all day, and it's been nice. I've been outside and getting a bunch of yard work done, so my wife doesn't divorce me for neglecting everything and doing all the stuff here in the shop. But um, yeah, 540 is what's going into the Chevelle. I've kind of made that decision. I've purchased a Dart Big M block. That's kind of changed. I was going to use a Gen 5 big block to put in that car. And it's like anything else. The longer I've waited because of supply chain issues and all that, it's been I waited too long, and now a Dart block came up, and it's like, well, I might as well jump in and use it. So we're gonna go in and go full bore and just build a big 540-inch motor and have a lot of fun with it with the Tremec T56 behind it. So hopefully I can get back on that as soon as the JMC is done or back on the road a little bit. I'm going to spend some more time on it. GMC is a whole other story. We'll talk about that in a minute, I guess. But so that's SEMA. For any of you folks, like I say, that want to go out there, I'd be happy to link up with you if you're around. In December, I think it's the 7th or 8th this year, 3-day show in Indianapolis, the PRI show, Performance Race Industry. You can Google it. You can look at the past videos I've done on here. And that is my show. That's the one that I really enjoy. SEMA has everything, the entire automotive aftermarket. Like I said, they got tires, wheels, truck accessories, car audio, paint and body, all of the performance manufacturers, the engine manufacturers, brakes and all that other stuff. On the truck accessory side, you've got the lift kit companies, the four-wheel drive and off-road type of companies. All that stuff is there. When you get to PRI is performance racing industry. It's just the race car parts. So there are a ton of manufacturers that do not attend SEMA that attend the PRI show. Usually the more hardcore manufacturers, the companies like Edelbrock or Holley or Milodon or Willwood or Bear. Just trying to think of manufacturers, Painless Wiring, American Auto Wire, whatever the case may be. Those folks will always be at SEMA and always be at PRI. But when you talk about the some of the smaller or more focused race companies, they will only do PRI. They don't do anything at SEMA. SEMA is more of a it's more of a celebrity type of deal. It's turned into that anyway. PRI is more just hardcore. The good thing about PRI too is the credentials to get into PRI are a lot different. PRI is not as difficult if you can show that you have a race team. So you have a race car, you're racing in a bracket, or you're racing in a dirt track or oval, whatever the case may be. If you've got a racing team, you can probably get credentials to get into PRI pretty easily. You don't have to go through that lot of the rigmarole that you have to do to get into the SEMA show. Getting into PRI is very easy. So there's a lot of race teams that show up at PRI, and it's a lot of fun. There's all the drivers are there. So if you're an IndyCar fan, if you're an NHRA, or if you're NASCAR, drifting is big within the PRI community these days. So any of those drivers that are in the drift category, a lot of international drivers are there. Ida Zetterstrom from Sweden, she drives a Top Fuel dragster over in Europe. She's usually there. So you get a lot of those types of folks, where some of them, like years ago, you always would see like John Force at SEMA. I don't think he goes to SEMA anymore. He's too old, and I think it's just out of his bones and out of his heart. And so he only goes to PRI every year. So PRI is the fun one. That is my show. That is the one that I love going to. And sometimes I wish it would get a little bit more attention, where SEMA gets all of the press, all of the craziness, all of the shows talking about it. But PRI is really the fun one. If you're into any of this stuff, or any of the things we do on this channel, PRI is the place to go. So it's a little crazy, but I'm also happy that it doesn't get a lot of publicity, because it would just, I don't want it to get overrun. It's already hard enough to walk around these trade shows, and you're on your feet for 10 hours a day, and it's difficult when there's a lot more people in there that technically are just there to see it. It's an easier type of show to be in when there's just industry folks that are in it. So that's not a knock on the general public. It's like if you sell car insurance or washer machines at Lowe's and Home Depot, and 100 people come in there just to stand and stare at you and look at it. They have no intention of buying anything and just ask 100 questions and wander out of there, take all your literature, and if you got stickers to hand out, or pens or whatever type of swag that they're handing out, it's hard for you to talk to the regular customer that's looking to buy something when there's just a bunch of random folks in there. So but that's what SEMA unfortunately has turned into. But like I said, now you can go in there on the Friday, and then whatever that Saturday event is out there in Vegas. Like I say, I think with a concert or something like that. But yeah, just kind of a cool deal. So let's see what the camera's at. It's at 86%. So I'm assuming then that maybe the laptop is charging that. And we're about 26 minutes into the 26 and a half minutes into the live stream. So that's cool. I'm also testing this to see. I guess I'll use the streaming service now. So, but anyway, let's see what else we got here. Sorry for rambling there, but I'll get back to the comments now. 9 months of days in parts South Chattanooga, Australian days. Yeah, I like our. I spent 2 weeks in Chattanooga, 2010, 2011, maybe it was 2010. It had to have been 2010. I spent 2 weeks in Chattanooga working for a company, a big tire brand that had a presence there in Chattanooga. And I love that little town. It's kind of a rough little town, but I bet you I went by Honest Charlie's and Coker Tire probably about 3 or 4 times in the 2 weeks that I was there, just because I didn't have anything to do. And once I was done at like 3 or 4 o'clock, I was kind of a little close to there, and I'd run down there. And the Coker Tire folks are cool. They do a lot of really good work with bringing back all those old school tires. And then Charlie's is just a really cool speed shop. So, but I understand about taking forever to get parts. It's certainly taken me a long time. That's why I stopped on the Chevelle and bought the GMC, because everything was on back order at the beginning of all this, COVID monkey business, and the industry and the world has not recovered from that. I know we want to think it's over with, and everyone and myself gets irritated when somebody goes, "Yeah, I don't have that in stock." And you say, "Cool, when do you think you're going to have it?" "I have no idea." Well, that's not an answer. I need to know, when you're going to have the damn thing. And the world doesn't work that way anymore. So it sucks. So I feel for you. It took me almost 10 months, I think, to get pistons for the 460 I was going to build. And, I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go do something else. And, that's when I did the truck. And then I ended up building an engine for the truck. And thankfully it was kind of common and no big deal. And now I'm going to build this 540. So I'm going to probably start all over again looking for parts. So anyway, we're back on the Yingling bandwagon, I guess. Been hard to get off of it, but anyway. So yeah, I understand there, Stephen. It's still a rough world we live in. Hopefully it gets a little bit easier for you and doesn't get too bad. So let's see here. Did I get everything? I think so. I'm kind of light on folks tonight, but that's okay. But yeah, if you got any carburetor questions or like I said, any questions on any of the videos I've done in the past. I will tell you that the coming up videos that I've got planned, the GMC has been kind of difficult. I jacked up the flex plate in that. I say I did. I allowed it to get jacked up by somebody that was helping me that didn't really understand it. I'm not going to blame him. He's a young kid, and I was happy to have his help, but for some reason, I think it kind of tweaked that flex plate, and it either bent it or whatever. So I've got a new TCI SFI flex plate, so it should be a little bit more beefy. So I've got to rip the transmission out of the truck, and that sucks when you're laying on the ground and you're doing it by yourself, and you're 55 years old, and things don't work as quick as they used to. But as soon as the flex plate gets back in there, I've got a couple of tuning videos that I want to do. We're going to revisit idle, and then we're going to talk about base calibration of a carburetor before you go out and start driving. And in the meantime, I've got to finish up installing the new brake lines on that thing. It's completely gutted right now. I've got most of the front brake lines done, but with the engine, I knew this was going to be a pain in the butt, but oh my God, I didn't know how bad it was going to be. But yeah, the brake lines I got to finish up. They were just trash. So I threw some pictures on Instagram or Facebook or something to show them. But yeah, they were just trash. So I ordered some new stainless lines from LMC, and they got here, and I've been dragging my feet doing it. So I've got to get the transmission fixed, get the flywheel corrected, and then get everything put back together. And then it'll hopefully motivate me to get back underneath there. And with the weather not, triple digits around here anymore, should be pretty easy to hopefully not get all hot and sweaty and irritated by it. And hopefully can get the brake lines done. So, but anyway, I got those videos to do. And then for y'all that the very first video that I did this year was the flat tappet cam failure video. I'm finally at a spot where I am comfortable to do the last video in that. So just briefly talk about it. We did why do they fail? We went over all of those issues in that video. It's a really good video. If you haven't seen it, again, it's first one of the year. It's whatever. I have a playlist with all those in there. The second video that we did was a tough one, and it took me a long time to get the samples of the camshafts that I wanted from local machine shops, from friends, and had them milled down so you can look and we can see what actual hardness looks like in a camshaft. Everybody talks about these things in theory. I want to show it physically and not just sit here and show a camshaft and go, yeah, if you could see the hardness in that, you could tell that there's something wrong with it. Well, I wanted to show you that, see what the actual depth looks like in multiple types of materials. So we ground down a cast cam core, I think a 5150 cam, billet cam, and maybe we did a couple of cast cams. I can't remember, but I think one of them failed and one of them was still good. I don't remember, but that was a really good video. But the last video in that series is going to be on lifters, and there is a lot of information in that. The trouble with that was I wanted to try to figure out a way to show you what the crown on a lifter looks like, and I think I've got that sorted out without having, $50,000 equipment laying around here that I don't have, obviously, to measure it and show you that. But I think I figured out a way, and then we're going to talk about all the little things that people don't think about with lifters. Everyone always says, well, yeah, the lifter's got to rotate to keep it alive. That's correct, but that's half of the equation. There are things in there that folks don't either think about or make the assumption on, and we're going to talk about all those things, but because I firmly believe that there's two reasons for the failures in flat tappet cams these days. And one of them is I firmly believe that the quality of the lifter has changed because those OE suppliers here in the US, the OEs, the Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Toyota, Chrysler, whatever it is, they're not using flat tappets in anything. They haven't in decades. Everything has gone roller, and most of those manufacturers are making roller product. So if it's a lifter company and they are making lifters, they've stopped making the flat tappet because why? Because the demand from the OE, they have to meet whatever demand they have monthly or weekly or whatever they deliver. They have to meet that contract or they get fined really heavily or could lose the contract. And those are worth millions and millions of dollars to a company. So they've quit making the flat tappet lifter, or if you're a cam core manufacturer, and there's still plenty of those in the US, they're up in Michigan. Two of the biggest in the country are in Michigan, and they are still making some cast cam cores, but every cam that's in a modern engine is a billet cam core, a 5150 or a 5160 almost exclusively on those cam cores. So for them to stop production, go back, cast a cam core, uh, put the lobe dimensions on there, the rough lobe dimensions on there that need to be in there, and then cast it, heat treat it, and then grind it in some instances, or in the old school days when they were doing it for Chevy, Ford, Dodge, whoever, they would do the grinding on their facility there, and boom, it was done. Um, and those machines were ridiculously cool. I've gotten to see them once in the 30 some years I've been doing this, and it was kind of cool, but it's terrifying how fast a cam machine can grind a camshaft. Um, but they're all in billet. So for them to switch back and forth between those two materials, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of change. The cast cam core machines or the cast machines they were using, they've gotten rid of a lot of them. They only have a few of them. So I don't think the cam cores are near as big of a problem as it is the lifter, because the lifter is far more complex. So I wanted to show that in the video on the cam cores to show the hardness, to show what that looks like. And I think, yeah, I think I have that right here. Yeah. So from that video, I don't know how well you're going to see that. You see that real shiny bit on the outside? And then it's kind of dull here. That is the depth of the heat treat. You can see the light, you kind of see that. So hopefully you can see that shiny circle. That's how deep the heat treat is on that billet. This is a 5150 camshaft that we had cut in half, so you could see the level of the heat treating. Now, when you do that on a cast cam core, and I don't know, I think I saved that, but I have no idea where it's at. But the cast cam core was pretty similar. It's got a nice deep level of heat treat in it. And I don't think it's the cam core that's the issue. I think it's the lifter, and I think it's something else that affects the lifter. And so that's what the third and final video in that series is going to be, is we're going to get really in depth on lifters. The problem with doing these is they're very expensive for me to put together. I have to purchase the cams. I have to have them cut because I don't have a machine to do that. And it's a lot of money. Just like with this carburetor video, I killed 4 Holleys. They're dead. They're not coming back. They're not coming back to life. So yeah, it's kind of an expensive deal. But the thing that's taken me the longest on the lifter side of it is gathering up examples of it. And I wanted to do a couple of things that I couldn't do it, but we're going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to show you as much as I can and then give you some things to look at if you're building a flat tappet engine, because I fully believe that they can stay together. It's not just the oil's fault. Oil is a big part of that. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the only part of that equation. And a big part of it is because of all those things that have changed with the lifters. You have to be very, very cognizant of spring pressures, the type of engine. Um, I catch hell for this, and I'm gonna say it again. There's a big car Canadian YouTuber that built a big block Chevy engine and fired it up, and it wiped the cam, and he was blaming the cam manufacturer. And I know that's an easy thing to do, but as I watched that video, every single thing that he did in that video was wrong. The only thing he didn't say is what break-in RPM he used. But I will guarantee you, if on a big block Chevy, if you are north of about 1800 RPM, you are going to have a significant chance of wiping that camshaft out if you're going that fast. The big block Chevy valve train is notorious for being rough on valve train pieces. So he used Rotella as a break-in oil. Wrong. It's just not. And again, we've covered all those topics, and I've gave a lot of that info, but it wasn't my theories on things. We invited the folks from Driven Racing Oil and did an interview with David over there and talked about the break-in oil and procedures and all that. We had Lake Speed Jr. on, where I interviewed Lake, and we talked specifically about oil and cams and break-in and all that. We had Billy Godbold on, the leading cam designer in the world for performance aftermarket camshafts. Lake and David are names that you've probably heard of, and I interviewed them and just asked them directly the questions that I get asked on this channel. So again, it's part of what I wanted to do here since day one is give you all the details, and not just my opinion on something. I went directly to the subject matter expert to ask him questions. So those 3 podcast type interviews that I did with Billy, Lake, and Driven Racing Oil are really beneficial if you want to listen to any of that. I wish I would have had probably 2 more hours with Billy and another hour or 2 with Lake, because they're just painfully brilliant at what they do and understanding the failures and how to help override them. But even if you follow everything that those 2 folks suggest and the folks at Driven suggest, you still have a good chance of ruining a flat tappet cam these days. And we're going to cover that in the final video with the lifters. So sorry to drag on about that, but I thought it was important to talk about it because it's taken me forever to get all of that stuff together. And it's been a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, a lot of cost, a lot of time. So I hope you appreciate it. I'd like to have that done before we go to SEMA. So hopefully that video will be out here maybe in a couple of weeks. SEMA's, what are we, a month away? What is today? The 9th? September 9th, October. No, we're a month and a half. We're almost 2 months away. No, less than 2 months away. So anyway, we should have that video out. So look for that one. It'll be a good one. It's probably the best one out of the whole series. I didn't wait to do it last, but it's like everything else we've done here. I want to try to build on it. So give you enough information in digestible, small enough chunks that it'll help you understand the theory and process behind something and how something works. We've covered the Edelbrock carburetor, my God, extensively over the years, as long as some of the Holley and the VRS stuff from the Edelbrock side a little bit here in the last couple of years. But I want to give you all that information, not because I'm looking to do 400 videos before I get to, okay, now that you got all that down, here's how you do X or Y. I want it so you had all the knowledge of it and understand why, because if you understand how something works, when it screws up on you, you can start to figure out how to fix it. So anyway, the lifter video should be hopefully here in a couple weeks, couple months, something like that. So, I guess we already did that one with Steven. So y'all are quiet tonight. Not many questions. So feel free to ask them anything you want. Carburetors, Camshaft stuff, if you want to talk about cams, happy to do that. You want to talk about cylinder heads or ignition or timing or whatever it is, I'm open for any of it. So, but anyway, so that's kind of what's coming up content wise here over the next, 6 to 8 weeks. Unfortunately, I got a couple of things that are slowing me down health wise. So that's kind of put a little bit of brakes on some things, but hoping I could just kind of push through that over the next couple of weeks here. I've been to the doctor 100 times and they're doing a bunch of tests, and I'll let them figure out all their snake oil because I have no idea what it is. And again, if I was to sit down and try to learn it the way I teach things, I don't know that I'd want to know all the details. So just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. So, but hopefully it doesn't slow me down here over the next, now and whenever they figure out what's going on. So, but anyway, those are all the things I really wanted to kind of talk about. Again, I really wanted to test out this live stream just to see if it was going to work for me. I think it's going to. We are 45 minutes in. The camera says it's at 73%. That's a big deal for me because, like I say, I'm not plugged into anything other than the laptop. So I'm assuming that it's feeding a little bit, even though it's dropping down a little bit. So, but yeah, if you got any questions, I guess holler at me and we'll talk about them. I did have one other little thing I guess I want to talk about here. Let me grab a little bit of my Yingling here. I got asked a week or two ago, maybe it was longer. Oops, sorry, I think I just bumped the camera. They were the question was on an annular booster, and hopefully I'm not too close to the camera here. Doesn't look too bad, I guess. But on annular booster and the differences between annular and dogleg. But the question is how much difference is there between the AVS2 Edelbrock annular booster and the VRS booster? So this is a booster out of a 750. Okay. So it's a smaller, this is the secondary out of a 750. So you can kind of see the size differences. They're pretty close, I guess. But here's where the difference is. See how much taller that VRS booster is? Hopefully that you can see that. The reason why that booster is taller, and it's taller than a standard 4150 style booster, is because the brilliance of this VRS carburetor is that it's taller. They made it taller so they could increase the length of the runner, okay, the Venturi, and allow them to move the booster up and down into that Venturi to get the best amount of airflow, the best atomization, the best horsepower numbers, best torque numbers, how it was pulling fuel from the bowls through there. So the brilliance in that carburetor is that little half-inch taller that it is, and being able to really tune these boosters and tune it within where it sits within the Venturi. Absolutely killer design. I'm really kind of shocked that no one else, whether it's Holley, ATM, Quick Fuel, any of those, Barry Grant, whoever you're talking about, didn't think of this earlier and try to change the how much power the carburetor will make based on how you're fueling it and where the booster is within the Venturi. So they just always, I think it was just because maybe they just wanted to stick with a set height on that carburetor, and any variance to that was going to upset people. And Edelbrock just said, you know what? It's a race carburetor. Deal with it. If it doesn't fit underneath the hood of your muscle car, sorry. If it doesn't fit your, air flapper, air cleaner, factory air cleaner, sorry. It's not made for that. It's made to be a bitch and race carburetor, and it is. But that change in or that difference in the booster is a big reason of why, you know, much taller, and that effect and the siphoning of the fuel through that booster because of the amount of drop in pressure that occurs underneath that booster, and now where it's placed in the venturi, the signal becomes much different on that type of carburetor than it does on just a standard AVS type carburetor. Again, the Edelbrock carburetors are great carburetors, and that AVS2 carburetor series having the annular booster has been a little bit of a game changer for Edelbrock. Again, spent all that money to redesign something that everybody says is dead. The world's going to EV in 10 years or 20 years, and we're not going to have these anymore. Well, why would a company spend all that money to invest in that, to put annular boosters in it? Why did they spend, I think, several years? The rumor is they took them 3 years to develop this carburetor, and spend all that time and money and effort and tuning and making all the changes to this, and finally deciding that a half inch taller was the best way. And all of these boosters kind of changed and fit in there, the way they wanted to. Why invest all that money in something that's going to go away in 20 years? So I give Edelbrock a lot of credit for that. And it makes me question why the other carb manufacturers didn't want to invest that money in it. But I can understand it's probably made the executives or the investment company at Edelbrock a little nervous because of how much money they've spent to redesign all this stuff. But what a bitchin' um, carburetor that is, and the design that we have. So that will eventually go. Well, not that one. That's an 850. That one will eventually go on, or that's a 750. That one will eventually go on the GMC, and then when we get the Chevelle running, ooh, I'm gonna hope, I guess, that it's sometime early next year, when we get the big block built and get it all put back together and in the car. I will put a 850 or 950 VRS carburetor on that car, and we'll start doing tuning through that. I will probably still run a Performer Series carburetor, the AVS2 800 on there, and then we will go to the VRS carburetor, just show the differences in between it. But really looking forward to tuning that. My 650 that I had for a year, that is at Slant Daily Garage. There's his sticker right over there. If you want to see that carburetor, it is on a Slant 650 on a Slant 6. That carburetor. I've seen him in person. It's pretty remarkable. He lives here local. One of these days, I'm going to head up there and when he decides to start tuning on it. But I think he's just trying to get some baseline numbers out of it. But I don't think he's done any tuning on it. It's literally he pulled it out of the box and set the idle mixture and idle speed, and down the road he went. So kind of a cool deal. But looking forward to getting some tuning time on that carburetor, on the GMC truck, on a really mild small block, and then on a probably roughly 800 horse big block. That's kind of the target range I'm shooting for. I don't want to get much more aggressive than that, but really looking forward to that. And those videos hopefully will be next year, earlier than later. So, what situation would one use a dog leg over an annual? It's a really good question. So I think the benefit of a dog leg style, oh, that's a 500, but that's still a dog leg style. I think really the benefit in it is two things. On the manufacturing side, the benefit to that style of booster is they're really, really cheap to make. Now, I know that doesn't help us out, but on the carburetor manufacturer side, they look to cut cost in everything. Can I get away with a cheaper gasket? Does that metering block have to be billet? Can I, cast these differently? Can I take some material out of it? Whatever the case may be, they're always looking to drive the cost down. So that's the reason why the down leg style booster is very, very preferred, because it's a lot cheaper than that little machined area there. And I don't think you can see. Yeah, you can see the holes in there, I guess. So they don't have, all of the machining that needs to take place on that. It's literally cast it, shove the brass tube through there, and call it good. The only thing on the down leg style is it does deliver a decent amount of fuel. So if you've got a good amount of airspeed going through the booster and through the Venturi, it will atomize itself just fine. It looks like it's dumping a ton of fuel, and it's not wrong. It is dumping a ton of fuel, but those boosters and that Venturi, if you've got a lot of vacuum underneath there, a lot of pull, a lot of drop in pressure where it's pulling fuel through there, those down leg boosters work really, really, really well. It is really hard to screw those up. Here's another interesting little thing I just noticed, reminded myself to talk about. See how the bottom of that booster has got a little fin to it? Kind of like an axe head looking thing. I guess you can kind of see that. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the camera here and everything's backwards. But again, that's also to keep the airspeed as straight as possible, to keep that pressure area underneath there good or perfect enough to draw the fuel out of there. That's the other side of it. An annular booster requires more fuel or more air to go through there. That's why Edelbrock doesn't have a 600 AVS2 carburetor. They have a 650. The reason being is because they realized that they needed more volume of air to pull the fuel through there to get it to run right. And so that's the reason why when you have those bigger carburetors. So no 600, they go to 650. No 750, they go to an 800 on the AVS2. The 500 is still the 500. It's not a 550 or anything like that. Reason being is because of the airspeed and the CFM of the carburetor. So again, I kudos to Edelbrock for spending all that money that they spent on redesigning and redeveloping a carburetor that's supposed to be dead. So kind of a cool deal, but that would be the reason why. If you have a really good high vacuum engine, a down leg style booster is really, really well. The only benefit really that you get out of the annular booster, which it's obvious, but what I've noticed with these since they've come out 6 years ago, 7 years ago, however long it's been now, is even on really mild applications, the throttle response on these is so much better. It's so much more touchy. It's almost like driving, I hate to say this because it sounds marketing-ish, but it's almost kind of like driving a fuel-injected car where step on it, stand, boom, it just drives it, and you get that nice throttle or snappy throttle response out of the annular booster over a down leg. And I fully believe it's because it doesn't get enough time to atomize on a down leg style booster. But anyway, bitchin' little design and just something that somebody asked about, and I figured what the heck, I'd just talk about here on the live stream, and we talk about boosters. So I think I missed one here. Hopefully that answered your question, Jay. Holley have a carburetor carb setup before? Yes. Yes, it needs boost reference. The power valve does. And then if you're going to remove it, Holley, if I remember correctly, has carburetors that are already set for boost through a draw through type on a 1071, 671, 871 blower. They also, I think, have a blow through type carburetor. Again, which is, I'll use the Edelbrock as an example here. One reason why some of the Holleys you can't use, this is all sealed up, so there's no holes to go through here for a choke. That's why the reason why this doesn't have a choke on it. Air horn's been milled off. It's not a street carburetor, so you can seal this with a hat to go to a turbo or a blower or whatever. And these draw through or blow through style carburetors need that so it can pressurize the bowls and keep the boost contained within it. But I think Holley has carburetors for both. I'd have to look and see. I know they have one for the draw through style. I would be I would be shocked if they didn't have one for that draw through style supercharger. So, but yes, they do need boost reference so they can meter the fuel correctly. I think we talked about, or maybe it was E85. I don't remember. I have to go back. We did a video on why this carburetor is boost ready. For the most part, it needs a little bit bigger metering block, I think, to meter enough fuel. But I'll have to go back and look at that video and see. But I think I did. We talked a little bit about that. Proves down leg vacuum secondary is better. I don't doubt that a bit, especially on a really good, engine with a lot of vacuum to it. If it's got, a good amount of pressure drop beneath the booster, absolutely, it should perform better. And we talked about that on the video here, where unfortunately we destroyed these Holleys. The 4160 series carburetor doesn't get enough love. Everybody just always goes, you need a double pumper. Got to put a double pumper on. Well, it's a 400 horse GMC truck, pickup truck, half-ton truck. It needs a double bumper. No, it doesn't. That vacuum secondary's carburetor is awesome piece. It does the job really. This one doesn't. This one's not going to anymore. But isn't that weird? Inside there, it's still shiny. It still has that shiny coating for that 80457 carburetor, but the outside's gone. But I like that 4160 series carburetor. It's got its place in the world. I would have no problem using it. I would have no problem putting a 4160 series carburetor on the GMC truck. I think it's absolutely perfect for that application. Carburetors are like camshafts. There is no one best profile for a 440 Mopar. There's no best one cam profile for a big block Chevy. It all depends on what you're going to use it for, what the RPM range is, how you're going to drive it, what it's going to be used for. Is it a drag racer? Is it a cruiser? Is it a stump puller? Is it a tow truck? Is it a dump truck? There's a million reasons why you would. There's not one cam profile. Same with carburetors. There's not one style or type or brand of carburetor that's best. So, absolutely, I'm sure the dyno on a good high vacuum engine. And when I say high vacuum, I'm not talking about something that makes north of 20 inches of vacuum. 15 and above, probably something that's not really aggressively cammed. But I have no problem with that vacuum secondary's carburetor. It's 4160s is good stuff. Good stuff. So cool. Well, I think we have most of everything that I was going to talk about. Only gone through one beer, so couldn't have been here too long, but it says we've been on for an hour. What else? We talked about SEMA, PRI. We talked about this ugly carb cleaner video. Again, I'm going to go buy probably 2 more gallons of fresh super clean, and this thing is going back in for probably at least a month. I can't say exactly because I know I'm going to come out here or I'm going to bump into it and go, wow, I wonder what that looks like. But I want to see this thing really. Right now, it's the surface of this thing that's trashed. That chalky, ugly breakdown of that carburetor is horrible. That's a secondary bowl. That is so thick of that. Look, I don't know if you can really see that, but it's like chalk. It's like ground up chalk. But yeah, I want to see what this thing does if you really screw up and say, I'm going to clean this carburetor and I'm going to throw it in there, and then, oops, I forgot about it. Look at that. A month later, will you have a carburetor left? I don't know. But those videos were fun to do. But they cost me a lot of money. These carburetors aren't cheap, and I destroyed 4 of them. And the cleaning material wasn't cheap. Thankfully, the Berrymans I can reuse, but everything else was just kind of get rid of it. So, uh, let's see here. What else we got? What factory carb do you think was the best? I'm going to show a little bias here. Because it was the first carburetor I learned on. It was what my dad taught me on. It was what it was a complicated carburetor, but it's what got me to understand how all the pieces work together. The Quadrajet is certainly that carburetor. It is very, very complicated. It's not easy to work on. Back in the late or mid 80s, early or late 80s, it was very difficult to find parts for. Matter of fact, I don't know. Let's see here. Yeah. Look at this. I'll get rid of these ugly things. But this isn't the kit. But back then, these hangers are different. And on the top of the hanger, like these still are, they would have a little letter stamped in it. So, some carburetors had a P or an H. I can't remember all the letters now. It's been decades since I played with one really close. But you pick these up out of different carburetors because the hanger had a different curve to it, a different shape to it, a different position where the rod was at within the within the jet. And as the as the rod came up, as the demand for fuel came up, and the rod pulled out of the jet and got into the thinner part of the metering rod, having a different hanger would pull that out of there, either more aggressively, slowly, whatever. So, like, I was a Division 5 racer for quite a few years, and so I raced at Kansas City, I raced in Denver, Tulsa, Minnesota, and all of those are at different elevations. So back in the day, if you're running a stock car, what you would do is buy hundreds of carburetors, because back then we didn't have an internet database to say, what's the part number on that carburetor? What did it come out of? 68 Corvette. Okay, perfect. I know I can use jets and I can use hangers out of that carburetor. Totally different back then. You just grabbed a bunch of them and grabbed all the, the jets that you can use or rods that you can use that had different diameters on them, steps on them, different hangers for all that. And that's how you tuned. And that's what I learned on. Do I think it's the best factory carburetor out there? It's one I'm most familiar with. I'm not real familiar with the thermoquad carburetor. I've tuned them. I've worked on them. I can see their shortcomings and I can see their benefit. I've worked on a lot of factory FOMO Co stuff as well. But typically, really anymore, the things I work on primarily are 4150 style carburetors, and obviously a lot of the Edelbrock style carburetors, and Edelbrock style carburetors, including the original AFB Carter factory carburetors from a lot of the Mopar stuff. I do a lot of tuning on those, but the Quadrajet is if I would say what the best factory carburetor was, I could probably make a pretty solid argument for that one. And if you had things that you'd say, I don't think it's the best because of this, I think I could at least make a case that carburetor was certainly one of the better ones. We ran an 1180 car, 1180, 1190. I can't remember the exact index on that car. But I was on a Quadrajet and a big block Chevy, and it ran aggressive. And part of the reason it ran aggressive is because my dad knew how to time an engine, and he knew that timing and carburetor tuning went hand in hand. And he beat that over my head relentlessly for a decade or more as I was a little kid, that if I made a carburetor change, or we were going from Kansas City at 1,200 foot in elevation or whatever it was, and we were going to Denver or Santa Fe, which is at a higher elevation, almost 7,000 feet of elevation in Santa Fe, you'd better know how to lean that carburetor out, and you'd better understand that timing affects that directly, and you've got to add more timing to it when you go up in elevation. So I learned a lot on that, and back then there wasn't a lot of parts available. Now, thankfully, you can buy Quadrajet parts, tuning parts that are out there, and that carburetor, for those guys that want to run that carburetor, it's awesome. Would I run a Quadrajet today? You would have to make a pretty, or pay me a lot to run one. Would I run one today? Probably not. They're just too complicated. I don't have time to monkey with them anymore. But having good tools, having good timing light, an AFR gauge is certainly helpful. Being able to data log things during a run, whether it's autocross, whether it's drag racing, whatever, certainly help all the tuning of that. So I guess that would probably be my go-to, my one that I would say is the best. So just me. I mean, y'all probably have some different opinions on that. And again, I can't disagree with them. If you can make a good case of why you think something is a great carburetor, it's hard to beat that. The only thing that I don't like about carburetor discussions is when you talk about a carburetor, a brand or a type, as long as it's made by a competent manufacturer, Edelbrock, Holley, Carter back in the day, even though Edelbrock purchased that manufacturing facility now. Anyone that tells you the Edelbrock carburetor is junk, don't run it. Don't run the Holley. They always leak, and they're too rich. You're always gonna, fight the thing. Anyone that says either one of those brands is junk hasn't really spent enough time thinking through it. I used to say when I was a little more aggressive that they're just not a car guy, because anybody that says brand X or Y is junk just doesn't understand. We just talked about a while ago. Everything's situational. Sometimes a 4150 style carburetor is the best to use in an application, period. Hands down, end of story. There's nothing you can do to make that Quadrajet beat that Holley in that certain circumstance. There is a circumstance where that Quadrajet may be better than an Edelbrock style AFB or a 4150 style Holley or Edelbrock. There may be, but you've got to take everything situationally. So I get a little frustrated with folks that just say brand X or brand whatever is junk. They're just situational. You put them in the right situation, you're going to get the best results out of them. That's what I love about carburetors. We got a lot of flavors to choose from. Where it gets a little bit, where I get a little frustrated with is like the knockoff stuff that's out there. There's a Chinese knockoff on Amazon, eBay right now. It's like $230 for that carburetor. It is a blatant knockoff. I've reviewed it on the channel. We talked about it on another live stream, I think, or we talked about boosters, and I compared the boosters in that Chinese carburetor. They are god awful, and there are some people that support that Chinese knockoff, that stolen carburetor, because it's cheap. And I get being cheap, I get saving money, but I don't get stealing it from another manufacturer. For God's sake, they even have the part number 1406 on the front of that carburetor, that Chinese knockoff. That's how much they've stolen it. It's ridiculous. So if they were to take the design and change it and make something different, and maybe make the fuel inlets a little bit different, or change how the fuel delivery was, or put a different style of accelerator pump in there, change the boosters, primary and secondary, or change the channels that are in it. Great. Make it better. Make something different out of it, but don't just blatantly steal it, for God's sakes. Those carburetors, I have no problem saying that they're junk. I wouldn't use it in anything. So sorry to go off on a little bit of a rant there. It's been a long day. I'm out. Q-Jet says Predator probably looked like that. Yeah, they were small. That's the nice thing about cruising around on a Quadrajet on a street car. especially on a street car. You can make a ton of torque in those things because you've got the velocity of air through a smaller primary, and they're typically a little more efficient on fuel. When you get into those great big secondaries, when you need them for power, for torque, for just all out wide open throttle, whatever, they do a great job at it, depending on what application you put it in. So, but good carburetor. I'm definitely down with both of those. So, spread bore or square bore. So, da, 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 da. I think I got all your questions, so I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me on this. I'm just like I said, this was more to test this live stream camera. I am down to 53% on the camera, so and we're an hour in, so I guess I can use this setup. My problem is, again, I'm not an IT guy, and I haven't cared enough about it to spend enough time. But I went ahead and went back to StreamYard. It's good software. I was using OBS before. Sorry if none of this makes any difference to you, but it was just frustrating. So if you ever want to do a live stream on something, StreamYard's pretty good. And again, this is on my DJI Osmo Action 3 action camera that we're streaming this on. I was using my phone, new iPhone 14, I guess it is. And that's okay. It does all right, but it's a little bit more complicated and didn't really have the things I wanted. I wanted this action camera so I could keep my phone separately if I needed to hop on and onto the live stream and take care of anything. Sometimes people get a little rude, and I don't have any time for that, especially if they're attacking other people, and that will give me the opportunity to boot them out of there if they're doing it. But sorry, but anyway, this was kind of what I wanted to do with this, and just kind of test this out and make sure I had good deals. So it looks like I can probably use this camera for a live stream and be good. So that makes me happy. So again, I think we talked about everything that I wanted to talk about. So if you guys got anything else that you want to ask me, bring up about SEMA show, PRI, the awful carburetor mess, that monstrosity. Yeah. So, but anyway, I got some good content coming. I just need to get the truck back up and running and kind of shake off the little issues that I'm having here personally. And once I can get off top dead center here and get moving, I think we'll be in good shape. So let me take another peek here. Take another swig of my. Oh, dang it. I almost totally forgot. Literally sitting right here in front of me. Somebody asked, and I went ahead and I keep these around. So heat soak in a carburetor. And when the carburetor sits for a long period of time, and then you have to get into it and crank and crank and crank and crank, a lot of folks have asked, can I run a electric pump to the carburetor to bypass the mechanical pump so I can fill the carburetor back up? And that way, if it sits for 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever, I can still get in, hit the key, and just drive. Yeah, you could, I guess. It's a little complicated, and you're still going to sit there for a few seconds until it does. So might as well just crank it over until it fires up with fuel, or just dump some down into the bowls and fill it up with a little squirt bottle, and then you don't have to do any of that. But I was asked if anyone made a fuel cutoff. This one is by Russell Performance, and it's a 650-643. This is a -8. So probably up to around 500-600 horsepower on an NA motor. -8's probably fine, maybe a little bit more. But that's the kind of thing you could use. So between the pump, before the pump, final filter, regulator, carburetor would be the order. You could put that in there. So you could leave it open, drive around, cruising around, whatever. If it's frame rail mounted, that's probably the easiest thing. You can just reach up underneath the car, flip the switch, it closes the valve off, and then the thought is to keep fuel from backing out of there. It's really not the instance in that, but it's also could be a good anti-theft deal too, to throw underneath there. Most people don't drive them away to steal them. They flatbed them out of there and you'll never see it again. Ask me how I know that, with a stolen GMC truck or Chevy truck from last year at C10 Nationals out of Dallas. That was fun. But it could be another small anti-theft deal where if you could cut off the fuel supply once it's done with in the carburetor, you're not going to get any more out of it, and car would die not too far away. But anyway, somebody asked me about that, and I had one here, and I just figured I'd show it. So anyway, Russell, fuel cutoff. So I was just looking at the board up at my pegboard. I threw it on there for that, but yep, -8 650643. All righty, now I think we're done with everything. So let's see, one more here. Thoughts on Holley 750 Street Demon? I'm not a huge fan of the Street Demon carburetor. I would probably go with their HP series or their classic series. Trying to think what else is in there. What if I think of? Well, it's on the other side of the shop. If you're talking about the regular old Street Demon style carburetor, you know what, I'm gonna go get it. Why not? It's not too far away. And if you can bear with me a second, I will go grab one and we'll talk about it. So hang on. Now this one is a 625 CFM, and I am assuming that this is the carburetor you're talking about, right? Street Demon, whatever. I can't believe I have that damn thing. Do I like this carburetor? Absolutely not. Absolutely hate it. I think the design is good. The problem that I have with it is the way that they meter the fuel on the inside. I hate that little plastic transfer tube for the accelerator pump. It's absolutely junk. I wish that they would find a better way to do that. These ones with the that aren't aluminum to control the heat soak of it, they're okay, but I did a video on this carburetor. I don't know when that was. 6 months ago, a year ago. I don't remember. It's been a while, or I've had too many beers since then. But I'm not a really big fan of this carburetor. See the pins, the idle mixture screws. See how they're stuck way out in there? Now I've had an engineer tell me that the reason why that they like to run those out there is it helps pull the fuel out of there in a little bit easier fashion, because that protruding out into the airstream helps to naturally draw it out of that port. Okay, idle mixture screw port. My question to that engineer, and any engineer, is if that was the case. I absolutely hate this carb stand, by the way. I made this years ago, and it's kind of bent up a little bit. My my question to that engineer is, if that's the case, then why doesn't everybody else do that? That's the port for the idle mixture screw for the Edelbrock. Right? I don't have a Holley anywhere nearby, but I've got this VRS. And because they're on the metering block, they don't stick out. But again, it's a little bit different design. But that just seems odd to me. And maybe that was part of the original design and it's run okay, but I'm just not a fan of that carburetor. I'm not. I just not because that I think that it's a Holley or it's a Demon, whatever. It's a Holley, and that makes it junk. I just don't like because I think the design's poor. It's got some things right with it. It's got nice big large fuel bowls in it. I do like that. As long as you don't heat soak it, and that was their thoughts on that, is to create that plastic body, phenolic body, to keep the it from transferring in there and it from boiling the fuel out of it. I don't know how that works. My plan is with this one is sometime down the road is to test that out. It'll probably be next summer because we're really coming into some colder months, but we'll see how well that does on a heat soak type of deal and just verify that it works. But everything else about this is just a little cumbersome. I don't know. I guess it's probably just the little design features in it that I don't like. I like the thought behind some of it. I'd like to spend a little bit more time maybe with it, tuning them. But the rods and jet combination is very limited in these. I've had folks tell me, well, just use the Edelbrock ones. They'll work fine. No, they don't. They're totally different. You can't. I have friends that have tried that I trust their feedback in it, but maybe we'll try that as well too. But it's just very limited, and there's not a lot of options out there. Whereas with the Edelbrock carburetor, there are tons and tons of rod and jet combinations. The Holley style or the 4150 style carburetor, there's lots of jets and power valves, air emulsions and bleeds, or air bleeds and emulsions inside there. If you're tuning low, medium, wide open throttle, idle circuit stuff, the adjustability on these things just isn't really that good. So again, just me, more of my personal preference. I don't know that I would say it's a good carburetor. I wouldn't call it horrible. I would just say you'd have to adjust what you're willing to put up with. You know what I mean? If you could, we're into that with a lot of times with guys where they will put a carburetor on. Pardon me. Put a carburetor on, and it's right out of the box. Man, it runs great. Well, did you do any tuning on it? No, it just runs great as it is. I tuned it. Yeah, I set the idle mixture screws and set the idle speed. It's fine. You didn't tune it. You just accepted the fact of how it runs. You've accepted the fact that your oil smells like fuel and you're constantly changing that, and your spark plugs are fouled, and it has a little bit of a hesitation here. It may run really good at one area, wide open throttle or whatever, but everything else sucks. It's what you've decided to put up with. And I think that's what really the Street Demon carburetor is. It's what you've decided that you're going to put up with. It's a sad statement to make, but I've never really been a big fan of this carburetor. But I'll also be very honest with you, I don't tune a lot of these. I don't play with a lot of them at all, just because I don't see them that often. Most everything that I have my hands on, and again, I'm not saying it's the sample size of the entire world, but I do a lot of Edelbrocks, obviously, and I do a lot of 4150, and then lastly, the 4160 style Holley is what I have my hands on the most. So I would imagine if I spent some time with this one, and we may, it's just like I said, this one's a 625, it'd be perfect for the truck. I'm probably going to give it a try, maybe do some tuning on it and give it a little bit more assessment of it, but not having a lot of rod and jet combinations for that carburetor makes it very difficult. So I guess that's probably the biggest reason why I don't like that carburetor. So hopefully that answered your question. So they're junk. Well, I can't argue against that, Jay. You uh, I, I I can't say you're wrong. I can't say you're right. I just, yep, sounds good to me. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's that style of carburetor that that folks are familiar with. It looks like that old style, Mopar carburetor, and maybe that's the reason why Holley put it together and put it out and decided to continue to sell it and market it and all that. But I just wish it had more. I wish it was more reliable. Again, that stupid little plastic tube for the accelerator nozzle. I absolutely hate that, and I hate the fact that it just doesn't have a lot of tuning options for it. So just it makes it very difficult, especially when you're trying to, do something really good for somebody and get them straight and running. So and get them tuned where the engine's running the way it should be. Not what you're going to put up with. So kind of go full circle on that. Sorry, I got a little bit of a cough here, and I'm almost out of beer. I only grabbed one, so I didn't know we were going to be on this long. I thought the camera was going to be dead by now, to be honest with you. So, but I'm happy it's at 43%. So, like I said, I think the computer is charging it up a little bit, which is cool. So, I guess we have proven that this is a good live stream setup for me, and that I haven't screwed this one up. I didn't swear for like an hour trying to figure this out. So, sweet. How do we just found? Yeah, that is a problem. The the jet and the Edelbrock's pretty much the same way. You have to take the whole air horn assembly off on the Edelbrock. Primary jets on a 4150 style or 4160 isn't too bad, especially if they got a fuel bowl drain in it. That's not that bad. But yeah, those are a little bit of a pain on that side. I don't disagree with that at all. The design just not what I would what I would use or what I would be. Again, I did a review of this and I was a little harsh on it, but in retrospect, maybe I've softened up a little bit on it, and maybe I will soften up on it a little bit after I put it on the GMC, because I'll run it for a while. I'll test it. I'll tune it. I'll get it dialed in with the AFR and see how it does. And, I'm sure I can probably get it to tune and do okay. But I know it's going to be a little bit more complicated because it doesn't have the amount of adjustability that all the other carburetors have. So, but yeah, they are annoying for that for sure. So, well, cool. Well, I appreciate you all hanging out with me for a while. Steven, Jay, Crash, all you guys have been here since like an hour and a half ago. So I appreciate that. Thanks for giving me the time to test it out. Hopefully I didn't bore you to tears. I wish I was at LS Fest this weekend, but that's okay. No big deal. There's always next year, hopefully. And yeah, SEMA PRI coming up. We'll throw that ugly carburetor back in the dip. And yeah, got some real cool videos coming up soon. Hopefully I can get the truck at least sorted out where it'll start up and idle again, and start to show you some videos on some things I want to talk about on setting idle mixture screws again, because it was something I didn't cover in the how to set the idle mixture screw video that I didn't want to discuss in it, that I wanted to do later. So I'll do that, and then the lifter video will be coming out, like I said, and then yeah, we'll be into trade show season, and geez, it'll be Christmas before you know it. So make sure you buy your wife or your girlfriend or your wife's girlfriend a nice Christmas gift and get her something good she'll like. Can't wait for SEMA. I know of a couple of new products that are coming out. Really eager to see those. And yeah, we'll be going live a couple of days at the show there. Try to go before the show just simply because all the crowds aren't in there yet, especially in that central hall. but we'll see what my time looks like. But for sure, we'll take a tour of some of my favorite manufacturers to do. Edelbrock, of course, Aeromotive, probably. Probably wander through the Holley booth, see if they've got anything new, and just take a wander through the hall. So, but cool. Well, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me for an hour and a half and checking out my camera and my setup. And hopefully, I didn't bore y'all too much. But thank you for you rock stars of hanging out for the entire time. I do appreciate that. And I guess we found a good live stream to do. So now let's see if I did it correctly, because when I end this live stream in the software, it should end it if I set it up correctly in YouTube. So anyway, I appreciate y'all stopping by. Happy Saturday to you. And yeah, um, I don't know. I don't know if I'll have a video done for next week. I got a big week ahead of me, so we'll see. So anyway, we'll see if I can end this live stream. But thank y'all again. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I will catch you guys on the flip side. If you haven't, if you're not on our Instagram page, follow me over there on Instagram. If you're not part of the Muscle Car Solutions Facebook group, don't have a lot of folks over there, but I try to put more stuff on the Facebook group that is more stuff that you don't see on Instagram. I like Instagram; it's fun, but I wanted to create the Facebook group a little bit. But I don't know. One of those I'm going to try to support this year and drive a lot of that content that's daily through it. But I don't know if it's going to be Facebook or Instagram. I'm an Instagram guy, I guess, more at heart, but I'm more of a photographer than videographer. So I always like that about IG, but it's kind of more gone to, the reels and all that other stuff. And I'm cool with that, but we'll see. But anyway, both those groups I try to post a lot of stuff on. So if you want to follow me at either one of those, I try to keep it at least entertaining. So, alrighty, y'all. I guess we will catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys, for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Makes me happy, and hopefully it gave you something fun and entertaining for an hour and 40 minutes. So let's see if we can end this thing. Thanks, guys.